Hey everybody, Steve Colescott here for the Iron Subculture podcast, covering all aspects of powerlifting, bodybuilding, and strongman training and nutrition.
Come on, Steve!
Okay. What makes you different from other strength coaches? Obviously, a science background are part of that. What else?
Well, I think if you look at strength conditioning, I don't know anybody in the field that has multiple world records in actual lifting. I think you have guys that like to compete, or maybe guys that have competed, but to actually go to the all-time world record list, I have a hard time thinking of anyone that's pushed that far. Number two, I don't know anyone that's pushed that far and not had any injuries. And I think that has a lot to do with knowing that 90% range, and it also has a lot to do with knowing my own body. And with that comes a very detailed list of technical ability and also the ability to transfer accessory movements into the ability to create bigger gains in the big lifts. That's my big difference, and that's why I speak at all the national conferences. Is like, you got people that talk theory and you got meatheads that can train, but there's not a lot of hybrid guys in the middle that have done both. And I think that's what sets me apart.
Okay, let's talk about volume. In bodybuilding, which is more about training solo, training volume raises from low rep sessions to 2-hour high rep training. In powerlifting though, it tends to be best to train in a crew. Why is that?
Well, I think if you look at, in general, most bodybuilding movements aren't going to require massive spotters. I mean, yeah, there's a handful of lifts that might need spotting with heavy dumbbells or maybe a leg press that might be really crazy, but you know, in reality, I mean, the only two bodybuilders I ever saw that truly needed spotted were Ronnie Coleman and Arnold Schwarzenegger, because they both train like power builders, which is kind of that hybrid. They train to get stronger to get bigger. And so if you look at like Ronnie Coleman and those guys, they kind of were hybrid powerlifters that transferred into bodybuilding, which gave them that density that just nobody else had at their particular times. But I think the reason that you see that in powerlifting and bodybuilding, sometimes in both, or you know, just in bodybuilding, is the fact that if you're not lifting intensity, you know, bodybuilders don't care about that nervous system drive. They care about tearing up muscle and repeating it. Obviously, it's all show, no go. You could bench 600, but if you look like you bench 405, then it's not really a great system or setup. Where in powerlifting, it's all about the number. So I think that what ends up happening is that they have to go to a situation where the volume, where they're working on sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, which is actual cell membrane growing, is going to be much more important than just tearing up the actin and myosin cross bridge, which is more intensive style training. And plus, with powerlifting, and you know, Louis Simmons kind of being the first one, and Fred Hatfield before him, being accelerative under heavy loads is also very important for powerlifting, which makes everything more of a sprint activity, whereas bodybuilders want to take everything a little slower and take the tendon and stretch reflex out of the movement. So that's where I think you see a difference in volume, tempos, things of that nature. Is what are you trying to attack, and what's the end purpose? You know, for powerlifting, it's getting faster, getting stronger, and getting bigger. And for bodybuilding, it only is about getting bigger. So those things require different types of modes.
Okay, question that just pops into my mind, getting back to the bodybuilding side of it. You have guys that are really low volume, and then guys that do the higher volume. One of the things I noticed is the guys that only do low volume, the poundage they use is incredibly high. Is there anything that shows that they're able to get more success with the lower volume because they're just, the weights are that much higher?
I think.
What have we seen science-wise?
Yeah, I don't know. I think my philosophy on that situation would be that the lifter tends to find what works for them, and it depends on their fiber type. So some guys might be a predominantly slow twitch, and some guys might be predominantly fast twitch. They're going to get a different reaction from those different styles of training. So point being is Ronnie Coleman was probably a lot of type 2, and guys like Jay Cutler maybe a lot of type 1. You know, I never saw Jay Cutler do anything that an average powerlifter could not do, right? Like a bench 405 for a handful of reps or whatever. So the point is sometimes I think those bodybuilders, they just see what works for them, and then that almost sets their fiber type, you know, by default. So I think that's why you see some guys get such good results out of heavy weights and some guys get good results out of lighter stuff. Flex Wheeler never trained super heavy. He was in theory, one of the best aesthetic bodybuilders ever. He got 20-inch arms doing curls with 25-pound dumbbells most of the time. So the point is what type of fiber do you have, and how does your body respond to those different types of volume, right? We could all, all of us in this room could train the squat the exact same way, and some of us are going to put 3 inches on our quads, and some of us aren't going to grow at all. Why is that? It's the same volume, same intensity. We're all going to react different to different stimuli, just like we would with drugs, right? I mean, somebody takes an aspirin and it relieves their headache. Another person takes an aspirin and they bleed out, from thinning their blood too much. Why is that? So I think the hard part is that it becomes back down to individuality, right? What do you respond to, and how does your body respond to those particular scenarios?
What do people generally need to do differently for post-training recovery? How are they most often getting that wrong, recovering from training?
Well, I guess it depends on the goal, but I would say overall is that they're not going into complete recovery mode afterwards. So what you'll find what we do here is a lot of hot cold contrast baths. We'll make sure that we got protein in the system immediately, and then an hour later we eat a real meal. So what we'll do here is take in 50 grams of protein, and then an hour later have a real meal. I find that 50 grams of protein gets the ball rolling, so to speak, but then the actual meal causes everything to actually absorb. But I think that people are probably not looking at everything in a 24-hour period. So you'll find that most of us, when we get done training, we're going in a relaxed state. I mean, I even listen to chill music in my car when I'm going home. I try to stay in darker environments just to keep everything relaxed. I'm trying to recover because in our training style, we have 72 hours to get ready for the next beat down of that particular muscle group. So the faster you can put your body into recovery, the better. So I start to find that over the years, as I train insanely smart, is that my body gets stiff, sore, and tired literally within an hour to 2 hours after training. It's not DOMS like two days later. My body starts the recovery process very, very quickly. And I think that's something you just have to have over many, many years, that the body's like, oh, I've seen this stimulus before, let's fix it now. But I don't think that you could really recover much faster. So I see a lot of beginners utilizing programs that might train the same muscle group too often. So I guess this comes into, if you train legs on Sunday, your body's really not ready to do that again until Wednesday. And you see a lot of programs out now that are talking about squat every day or bench press 4 times a week. It's impossible to recover from long term. So I think that's where everybody really messes up. I don't know that in a daily process if there's a huge problem post-workout. I think it's about what you're eating and what you're drinking and how you're responding throughout the whole day. But if you look at the studies, I mean, your hormone profile is going to be a little higher in the morning. So we do a lot of our training in the morning where testosterone levels are the highest naturally. You found that Arnold and them train in the morning. Michael Hearn trains at 4 a.m. So a lot of the top guys really put it at the beginning of the day before the stressors kick in, and I think that is a huge proponent as well.
Okay. Is muscle tightness necessary or beneficial? Should powerlifters avoid types of stretching or yoga?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it depends. I've never been a big mobility guy. I've just been a big full range of motion guy. And I think that's always helped me. I think there's a certain amount, it's like that middle ground. You need a certain amount of stiffness and a certain amount of mobility. If you're so immobile that you can't break parallel on a squat, you're gonna have a big problem. But if you're so mobile that you can go 4 inches below parallel, then chances are you're probably not a very strong squatter. So I find that finding that middle ground is a little different for everybody. And I think that flexibility, I'm gonna go out on a limb, but I think flexibility is a lot of how you developed as a child and what your genetics are. I think you can stretch all day till the cows come home, but some people are gonna be able to do the splits and other people just aren't. Some people are just stiff. My dad was tighter than a banjo string, so my car accident and then my dad being a tight guy, I never was insanely flexible, but I was just flexible enough to do world-class beats. So.
Thanks so much. Hey, can you tell people how to get some of your information? What's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, so we're at winningstrength.com. That's the website. We do online coaching. We have a Patreon channel, which is a paid channel where we put workouts and we put special projects that we do that we don't show to everyone. We're also on Instagram, the Ludus Magnus Gym page, and also Real Matt Wenning. We post a lot of different exercises there. That's mostly what we feed out to, but then we're on also YouTube, and we have a huge over 200 selection of library of exercises that we put, or different training things and questions like what you're asking is on our YouTube channel, Winning Strength.
Okay. good seeing you. It's been 3 or 4 years, so it's
Yeah.
great to see you.
Yeah.
And I appreciate talking to people.
No problem, man.